Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode corporate filings so you don't have to. Today, we're diving into a report from Putnam VT-focused International Equity Fund. It's not exactly a page-turner, but we'll extract the good stuff, kinda like finding the chocolate chips in a not-so-exciting cookie. It's going to be a wild ride of numbers, names, and, dare I say, mergers. Let's see what the International Equity Fund is up to. This fund invests in companies outside the United States. They're giving us an update on how they performed this last year, what the costs were, and if anything big has changed with the fund itself. So let's dig in. First, let's talk about costs. Everyone wants to know how much it takes to run this thing. So for Class IA shares, if you had $10,000 invested, the costs would have been $81. Class IB shares would have been $107. That translates to around 0.80% for Class IA and about 1.05% for Class IB as a percentage of your $10,000 investment. Keep in mind, these costs don't reflect expenses you might have from investing through variable annuity or life insurance products. Those would be extra. Now let's jump into performance. In the last year, Class IA shares had a return of 3.63%. To give you some perspective, they compare themselves to the MSCI ACWI ex-USA Index NR. That benchmark actually did a bit better, returning 5.53% during the same period. So they're slightly underperforming the benchmark. They also use something called the Putnam VT-focused International Equity Linked Benchmark, which also returned 5.53%. What were the big wins that helped? Turns out, overweight positions in SK Square, an information technology company, was a good move, as was ITOCHU, a Japanese trading and investment company. Finally, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, an integrated circuit and semiconductor manufacturer, helped boost the returns. On the flip side, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. The position in Compu Group Medical, which wasn't even in the benchmark, pulled down performance. So did a position in Ryanair. Being overweight in Bayer, a pharmaceutical and biotechnology company, also hurt a bit. Okay, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. How has this fund performed over the last decade? Remember, past performance doesn't guarantee future results, but it's still good to know. If you had invested $10,000 in Class IA shares 10 years ago, in 2014, it would be worth $18,113 at the end of 2024. Looking at Class IB, that same $10,000 investment would now be worth $17,654. Breaking that down into average annual returns. Over the last 10 years, Class IA has averaged 6.12% per year, Class IB has averaged 5.85% per year, compared to the MSCI ACWI ex-USA Index, which averaged 4.80% per year. This means, over the long haul, they've done pretty good. Now for a few key stats as of the end of last year. Total net assets for the fund were about $150.4 million. They held 38 different investments and the management fee paid was about $1 million. The portfolio turnover rate was 32%. Basically, it shows how actively the fund is trading its investments. Now, where exactly is the fund putting its money? Looking at the portfolio composition, about 19.7% is in the United Kingdom, 13.9% in Canada, and 12.9% in the United States. Interesting. Japan is up there too, about 12.8%. China represents 5.2%, so it's a fairly diverse mix of international markets. Alright, let's talk about changes. This is where it gets a bit like corporate soap opera, but I'll do my best to make it interesting. Back in May of 2023, Franklin Resources, also known as Franklin Templeton and Great-West Lifeco, the parent company of Putnam U.S. Holdings, struck a deal where Franklin Templeton would acquire Putnam Holdings. This deal finally closed in January of 2024. So what does that mean for this fund? Well, Putnam Investment Management, the fund's advisor and its sub-advisors, Putnam Investments Limited, and the Putnam Advisory Company became indirect, wholly owned subsidiaries of Franklin Templeton. Shareholders even voted on new management and sub-advisory contracts to reflect this change. In July, Franklin Advisors became a sub-advisor, working with Putnam Management. In November, Putnam Investments Limited merged into Franklin Templeton Investment Management Limited. It's like a corporate family tree, got a major restructuring. Now, this was a summary of the changes. If you want the nitty-gritty details, you can check out the fund's official documents. Time to check who is auditing the books. For 2024, the audit fees were just over $52,000. There were also tax fees of about $10,000. Total non-audit fees billed to the fund, its manager and related entities hit $874,000 and $370,000 for the previous year. The Audit, Compliance, and Risk Committee pre-approves all work by the auditors. So the committee has made a policy to pre-approve the engagement by the fund's investment manager of the fund's independent auditors, even when it's not legally required. Finally, let's quickly address the controls and procedures in place. The report states that the principal executive officer and principal financial officer believe that the fund's disclosure controls and procedures are generally effective. Basically, they're saying they're on top of things when it comes to making sure information gets out accurately and on time. So what's my take on all of this? The fees might seem a bit high, but I like that this fund is willing to trade their investments. Given its focus on global investments, the fund seems reasonably diversified across different countries. It spreads the risk instead of putting all its eggs in one basket. On the downside, the fund has quite a few company changes. With all the moving parts, it's crucial for Putnam management to continue focusing on ensuring a smooth transition and keeping things stable for the investors. Overall, while there's always room for improvement, Putnam VT-focused international equity fund looks to be in reasonable shape, navigating the complexities of international markets and corporate restructurings with a steady hand. Thanks for decoding with me today. If you found this helpful, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe for more corporate deep dives.